Want to see me talk about the Loud House for over an hour? You want to see me do it again? I'm gonna be real with you guys. Considering the heavy-handed subjects I tackled here and there last time, I was genuinely dreading some negative reception to the last video. So thank you guys for keeping it mostly positive. Especially with how long it takes to make these videos. Keep in mind guys, I work 10 hours every weekday, so essentially I only get to work on these videos over weekends and on my days off. And since I write and edit everything, it is very time consuming. All I know is that if last video hadn't been received as I had hoped, I'd be really disheartened to make the next one after all that time and effort. With all that knowledge, I sincerely encourage you guys to like and subscribe. Please and thank you. Well guys, after tackling the worst of this franchise with minimal regrets, I think it's time for a well-deserved palate cleanser as far as all that's concerned. Don't misunderstand though, by no means am I making this list because I feel like I have to even things out. All the criticisms I gave in my previous video are amounting to what I have to say in this one, and I genuinely believe there is so much good in the Loud House that isn't talked about enough on the internet. Probably because it's heavily overshadowed by all the bad episodes, and don't even get me started on the fandom again. But that's all the more reason to shed some light on what's actually great about it. This series has gotten so popular over the past near decade, and to some capacity, I genuinely believe there's a lot more to it than just the novelty, tokenisms, and controversies that cause so many of its problems. 10 girls that seem like they would be as generic as the tropes they represent have managed to hold so much individuality and charm in their own ways. Some more than others, but it's all there. Couple that with the white-haired boy born at the literal center of that, his friends, and a town full of normal people and misfits alike, and you have a family that can win your heart over in one way or another. I would go into more details in that regard, but ironically, I already discussed most of that previously. This kid and his family have shown us so many great things that I think aren't emphasized or even mentioned enough in its community, and arguably even animation as a culture. Its unique energetic pacing, its style, and more notably to a former outsider of this franchise like me, its characters, their growth, its messaging, okay, not all of that last one, I made that clear enough here, and just everything at the heart of it that has turned it into one of Nickelodeon's load bearers. For better or worse. But today, we're here for the better of it. While my last approximation resulted in 8 awful episodes, this time, I wound up with 11 absolute gems. Just like before, if an episode went unmentioned in this video, I'd probably consider it mediocre or forgettable at best. Maybe it missed the mark by just a bit, or it might ironically be on the worst episodes listing. Remember guys, this show has been going for almost 8 seasons and its 9th one is already in development. I can't cover everything good it has to offer as much as I genuinely might like it. I'm more than happy to read you guys' comments, but try to keep all that in mind before you post any. So, let's take a gander, shall we? This is the absolute best of the Loud House.
This is my home, and I won't let you destroy it!
Save Royal Woods. Yeah, the double-length episode that gives every character an appearance and brings them all together in a meaningful capacity turned out fine. You can tell the narrative is trying a little too hard to stand out, but it's solid nonetheless. The town is chosen to be destroyed via flood to make way for a government project due to its lack of tourist attractions and, by extension, relevance. So Lincoln rallies everyone into showing the town's value, by, say, building a noteworthy tourist site. And here I thought Flip would finally contribute to a resolution meaningfully with the one thing he's respectably known for. But of course, even when the stakes are this high, he ruins it by being cheap.
Bruh.
I swear, this guy is basically just Mr. Krabs, except he's not funny. Normally I'd add this to the reasons why I really don't like this character, but this screw-up amounts to a much better thing than a giant cup. After that failed idea, Lincoln gives the politician leading the destruction a tour of the town showcasing its historical significance by rapping? On paper, it sounds like a cringe fest waiting to happen, but all the songs in this episode are honestly not bad. Oh, did I mention it's a musical for some reason? The Flippy song is energetically catchy, the tour rap surprisingly doesn't feel pretentious or corny, the villain song really makes you hate her, though it more so helps that she looks like the bastard child of Hillary Clinton and Waluigi, and oh god, I can't unsee it! And the final song is a charming record of everything the Loud family and everyone connected to them has shown to us over the years at that point, for better or worse. All while emphasizing that while the town might not mean much to most outsiders, it means a lot to the Louds, the other residents, and by extension, the fans of this series as a whole, leading to the villain's crew turning against her and the destruction being cancelled. A great exemplification of the saying, one man's junk is another man's treasure. It's charming, it's well-paced, the stakes aren't contrived or excessive unlike some other special occasions. Hey, even a show as respectable as Hey Arnold oversold it with the drama with this kind of plot. The sense of community brings the whole episode together, literally and metaphorically, and overall, it's simply one of the series' best. This would rank higher on the list, but there's just a few problems that really drag it down a bit, namely with the last song, Exhibit A.
The move here was when I met my best friend.
Oh, don't get me wrong, this moment is adorable. Problem is, it's not actually in the episode, just the extended cut of the song.
What?
The one line that can be appreciated with the minimal amount of context it gives, and it gets scrapped? It's honestly really aggravating how the writers keep screwing over Stella, but we'll get to that later. Exhibit B.
And these handprints here remind me of the years we stuck our kids and pets in wet cement.
Bro, you couldn't use the handprints that were already canon? We're in the 6th season and you just wasted a perfect callback to the first dude. Exhibit C. I thought I was done with this subject, but even more plot holes courtesy of Luna and Sam's abysmal relationship.
The bowling alley where Sam and I had our first kiss.
Yeah, never mind the other half of your band. So much for moon goats making it big together. Their words, not mine.
The moon goats were supposed to make it big together.
Gosh, even in the most trivial moments, the narrative is still giving Sam undeserved attention. Unless
Hey, wait a minute, what the hell?
they didn't start dating until after they formed the music club / band with Mazzy and Sully. We've seen Luna do gigs on her own, but with how vague and inconsistent this show's timeline is sometimes, the safest bet is to assume that these events happened before, since the club goes unmentioned there anyways. Unlike most of the history in the song, we never saw this gig happen at any point. So canonically, this should take place before the club was formed as well, just like those segments in the comics. Supported by the fact that they were confirmed to be close friends before dating. Apparently close enough to be doing gigs, just the two of them.
See, now that's some bullshit.
I can't believe I have to bring this up again. How do you still go a whole first date having nothing in common and knowing nothing about each other? Our expectations for you were low, but holy fuck! Did I really need more evidence that this is one of the most self-righteously soulless pairings out there, and now it's basically just a publicity tool? I already have like a half hour's worth of that, and you're telling me there's more? You know what? No. I've said more than enough here, and this puppet has provoked enough negativity out of me. Just cue the memes and take me to the next entry, please and thank you.
Know your fucking place, trash.
It was never about the money.
It's a loud house. I see what you did there. Who would have guessed that in the family of 11 kids, money is kinda tight? Normally this kind of topic should be uncomfortable, but it's really refreshing to see this subject being tackled lightheartedly, especially for a children's cartoon. To start, the struggle is so apparent that the kids start fighting over a quarter, even though it's kind of played for laughs. As punishment, Mom and Dad make him clean the attic, where Lincoln conveniently finds a letter from the previous owner of the house, Sharon Demonet. I was today years old when I noticed the wordplay, claiming that there's a hidden treasure in the house, with a surprisingly appropriate warning about how if they keep fighting over money, they'll never find it. Without hesitation, Lincoln tells his sisters about the treasure, and they don't believe him, only to start searching for it as soon as he's not looking. The kids keep fighting over the clues from Sharon's letters until it hits them that fighting really isn't getting them anywhere, resulting in all of them reconciling, and the next clue coincidentally spawning immediately after. Wow, what are the odds? Turns out there is a treasure after all, and the kids are happy to share it equally. All while Mom and Dad discuss the fact that the treasure was his work bonus and that he set up the whole hunt, relieved in the fact that his children will share their money even when there's not much to go around. The twist is endearing, it's set up subtly, and it doesn't undermine the payoff in any way. We've all heard the sayings, the journey is the destination. The real treasure was the friends we made along the way. All I'm saying is that it's perfectly possible to be rewarded and have your heart in the right place. Sometimes you really can't have your cake and eat it too, and I gotta give it to this episode for acknowledging something this rare in a genuinely positive manner. On top of all that, this episode is really funny. All the jokes land, but this one gag with the loose floorboard really gets me. You can't hate on the stepping on a rake and it hitting you in the face. It's a classic, just ask Tom and Jerry. It's heartfelt, its messaging is strong and universally applicable, the comedy is on point, and all in all, it's a prime example of this family's well-earned unity.
Heart of the cards, guide me.
Deal me out. Hey, I said it before, the Ace Savvy episodes are kinda cracked. Well, most of them. It was a close call among all of these, but I trust that this is the best one for its ideas, its messaging, and for good measure, a bit of lore in the form of how Lincoln met his best friend. To summarize, the boys are going to an Ace Savvy convention, but then they're hit with the realization that they might be getting too old for this sort of thing. They sell all their merch with the con tickets, and they start trying things like car repair with Lana, fishing, and skateboarding. It's easy to tell that they're not enjoying it because they see other kids younger than them playing with toys, and they can't help themselves but to join in. Eventually, they start reminiscing about all the ways they've bonded over this franchise, mainly because it's what led to them meeting, culminating in both of them admitting that they can't bring themselves to let it go just yet, if at all. They get their con tickets back and prepare to stomach some ridicule, only to, ironically, appeal to kids even older than them. It's a bit of an odd choice to use a superhero franchise of all things as the subject for this message, at least in this day and age, but some of these stigmas are still common enough. Yeah, comic book guy from The Simpsons isn't necessarily just a stereotype. Even then, the message in question still retains its strength. It's okay to like something that isn't necessarily meant for you as long as it's harmless, it makes you happy, and your heart's in the right place. I mean, look at me. Behind this mudkip, I'm a grown man with a full-time job, but I still like Pokemon, and I'm critiquing a children's cartoon for strangers on the internet. Wow, Ira was right.
Pride is not the opposite of shame, but its source. True humility is the only antidote to shame.
That's why he's the GOAT!
The character growth is genuine, we get a bit of lore, it has several funny moments, maybe too funny for some people, and the moral is surprisingly uncommon and potent.
I see this as an absolute win.
Time trap. A common complaint I see about most slice-of-life shows is when they throw in supernatural gimmicks. Usually when the show is mostly grounded in realism like this one. It undermines the charming simplicity, and it shows a desperation for high stakes and grandeur. In this particular instance though, the concept in question is appropriate enough. Who would have guessed that a cartoonily gifted super genius like Lisa managed to build a time machine? Don't answer that, it's rhetorical. Even more believable is the idea that any kid would be dumb enough to use it to get out of being grounded of all things. Which is exactly what happens here. Being a double-length episode though, it goes further than that with even more interesting ideas, but let me try to summarize it first. The loud kids break a vase while screwing around, and since it's not the first time they destroyed that specific parental wedding gift, yes, I needed every adjective there, they're worried that they'll be grounded too much for their own good. Solution? Lisa builds a time machine to stop her parents from ever receiving said gift. But in usual loud fashion, they all give in to their literal childlike impulses at the venue and ultimately ruin their parents' wedding, spurring the couple into never having children at all.
I think I know where this is going.
The kids wound up in a timeline where they never existed, and they slowly start disappearing one by one unless they undo their mistakes. It's all a big fat reality check for that chunk of the family's identity. Remember the lyrics in the credits? Well, that might just become so much of a problem here, it'll literally fix itself, and it's taking them with it. It's normal for kids to be curiously foolish, and these kids have a few too many transgressions, some worse than others, but we always gotta encourage and sometimes enforce a limit. On top of being a great cautionary tale for the louds' usual impulses, and maybe for some of the kids watching alike, this episode explores a lot of ideas that could hardly be tackled otherwise. Like say, what would Royal Woods and its residents be like without these 11 goofballs? Their parents hold bitter resentment towards children in general. Their whole world is figuratively and literally less colorful. Lincoln's closest friends are somehow led by his bully instead of him? Wait a minute. If Lincoln never existed, let alone was late to the bus on Stella's first day, which he almost was, does this mean Chandler would have been her first friend instead?
Oh, hell no!
Oh, thank God for happy endings. I don't want to so much as imagine how he managed to corrupt her, let alone any of his friends. Cherish your blessings, my boy, especially your friendship with her, to say the least. Sometimes it's hard for us to realize what kind of impact we have on people, and that goes double for someone as outgoing as this little dude. Anyone can be grateful to this episode for all the warnings of its implications, let alone its messaging in general. It would bother me that they didn't explore these themes a bit more thoroughly, but they were literally living on borrowed time, so fair enough. The premise is plausibly silly, the stakes are serious enough, all the loud kids collectively learn more than one lesson and grow as characters, and all in all, this episode helps you appreciate what's good about this family and this series as a whole. As if I wasn't doing that already with this video alone.
Now listen! That's called motherfucking bars!
Head Poet's Anxiety. Admittedly, It's an odd choice for an episode with such a specific premise to be on this listing, but there's just that much worth appreciating, especially since it revolves around just two specific Loud sisters. Most of the time, this series just focuses on the bond or conflict between Lincoln and his sisters, rather than the dynamic between two of said sisters. Unless it's two sisters you would expect something out of because they share a room, or say it's the twins. So to see the dynamic between Luann and Lucy here is a brief but welcome change of pace, especially since it's done so well. Lucy's disheartened after her best poem was rejected, and, well, who better to guide her in improving her artistic writing than the sister who comes up with wordplay every chance she gets?
Hey, Lincoln, want some punch?
Sure.
Several bad puns later.
Also with her own share of rejection letters, but still. Luann mentors her in the essentials of the art, and the basic steps are great general advice for just about anyone watching in a similar field. Build some of your own talent to start, get some formal training, put your work out there, and the most underrated step, grow a fucking pair. Okay, she didn't word it that way, but you get the gist. Things might work out how you hope they do, but they more than likely might not. And on top of that, you better be ready to stomach the criticisms you'll have along the way. Lucy fortunately climbs her way up the ladder so well that she lands an opportunity that even Luann has merely been dreaming of. Vividly so. Girl is trying so hard to hold in her envy, and you can't help but respect her for it at first. A girl 6 years younger than her is taking her dream, but the girl in question is her innocent sister who she put on that path in the first place. So it's compelling when Luann feels all this bitterness and envy, but at the same time, she isn't being disrespectful in a way that's out of character. Which is something that can't be said for several bad episodes. She's so uncomfortably conflicted about everything she's feeling that Lucy even tries to pass up the opportunity for her sake. Which in turn gives Luann a reality check. She loves her sister and she's her mentor. With that knowledge, Luann's jealousy vanishes, Lucy performs, and icing on the cake, her first poem is dedicated to her.
This poem goes out to the person who got me here, my big sister Luann. Dreams burnt to ash, hope tangled like laces, till love swept in with puns and funny faces. Where my path will lead, I can't be sure, but if ever I'm lost, I'll look up to her.
Maybe I'm a bit of a hard ass and this franchise has never made me outright cry, but this moment in particular came very close. It's perfectly sweet, it's a gentle teaching opportunity, and it shows a compelling and heartfelt connection between two sisters amidst their crowded family.
Read! Read!
Before I mention this entry, let me just say that I knew I was going to include an episode revolving around this one Loud sister somewhere on this list. I just wasn't sure which episode. I'm not really the kind of person who picks a favorite anything just based on appearance or first impressions, so it took me a while to decide who my favorite Loud sister was. The only reliably fair criteria is the character herself and her development. Who they are, rather than just what they are. As far as all that is concerned, I can safely say that Lola takes the title.
Ha! Got him!
She's notably pompous, manipulative, cunning, and fixated on her physical appearance, but considering her age and the reputation she needs to uphold as a pageant star, her endeavors and her sense of vanity are ultimately innocent enough. Especially when she's still genuinely capable of empathy, kindness, and subsequently realizing that what she's striving for is worth sacrificing sometimes. Not just for her own sake, but for the sake of the people she cares about. Such as the timid new student she looked after for the sake of qualifying for a pageant, only to realize that she should be looking out for her when she didn't have to. Or when she took the blame for all her siblings' misdeeds to peacefully stop a cycle of blackmailing she started, realizing that she was so blinded by revenge that she almost forgot why she started it in the first place. She really is the perfect balance of bratty but sympathetic, to the point where her humanity shines through. She's graceful and a bit imposing, but she's also happy to help and kind of a softie. She's basically Lapras, and that's one of my favorite Pokemon. So half the time at the minimum, her adorableness can be taken at face value. There's a reason why her behavior in No Such Luck really pissed me off. But in her defense, and with the exception of Lincoln, everyone's behavior pissed everybody off in that episode. As much as I appreciate all of her episodes, well, most of them, I think the one that shows her at her most vulnerable, and for great measure, unites the family through her own growth, deserves the most recognition. So with that being said, Read Aloud is the entry on this list. What? No, Read Aloud. To summarize, the family enters a reading contest in which the family that collectively reads the most books wins free pizza at what's basically Chuck E. Cheese's. How many families do you know that have 13 immediate members? Yeah, they got this in the bag. Is what I would say if Lola wasn't being stubborn and refusing to read any book for some reason. So Lincoln takes it upon himself to get her to read any one book before the deadline, and it's honestly really funny at first because Lola's sass is at its best here.
They're first graders just like you and Lana, and they solve mysteries.
Did they ever solve the mystery of who gave them those hideous haircuts?
Only to learn that Lola refused to read any book because she's ashamed of the fact that she struggles with basic literacy. Considering her theatrical and not so theatrical arrogance, I had a feeling we'd see some sort of embarrassing vulnerability in her eventually, and this isn't a bad choice to go with. It's perfectly common for a 6-year-old to struggle with reading because I was kind of the opposite at her age, while almost every other kid around me was like her. In typical 6-year-old fashion, I had no patience back then, but nowadays, I can't help but feel a sense of empathy. Knowing how much Lincoln loves every one of his sisters, of course he volunteers to help her, even if it meant losing the contest for the whole family. And honestly, Lola's smile at the notion is just too fucking adorable. If this were any other cartoon brat, you would not trust it, but here, there's perfectly valid reasons to. Another perfectly plausible example of what Lincoln will give up out of love for them. Except this time, it's not because he knows it's the right thing to do, and he even knows what he's compromising, which is where Lola's development comes in. The family unsurprisingly loses the contest, but thanks to Lola's newfound reading capabilities, she learns to make pizza herself to make up for it. Wait, how did she get all those easy bake-ups? Okay, I won't ruin the moment. The episode's funny, it's endearing, it's a reflection of Lincoln's character growth while being a time of Lola's own, and the entire family is brought together as a result of all that, and, well, that's what's at the very heart of the show. A bigger-than-most, happy, united family. Also, I might be biased here, but I did not need Five Nights at Freddy's to make me realize how creepy animatronics are. So if anything, they should be thanking her for ruining this contest. Just saying.
You'll never see it come back.
Predictability. Wow, who could have seen this one coming? No, really, did you? Because I really don't see this episode talked about a lot. It has fun visuals, the premise is unique, and the moral is strong. To start, Lincoln starts being self-conscious about his way of living and how predictable it's become according to everyone around him. Lisa knows exactly when he goes to the bathroom, his dad makes him a breakfast without asking since it's the same thing every time. He wears the same clothes every day. I know a lot of cartoons have made fun of this shtick, but this jab actually plays into the narrative. He always wants to partner with Clyde for projects, his gym coach knows he's evasive when it's rope climbing day.
Alright, I get it!
It all gets to him so much that he starts having nightmares. Everyone knows him too well, and he worries that he'll become aggravatingly boring soon enough. It's like that episode of SpongeBob where Squidward gets burnt out from living the same way as all those other squids. However, the nuance takes a different, but equally compelling approach. Lincoln decides to basically change all his habits. He wakes up earlier for the bathroom, wears different clothes, partners with other classmates, and he even ditches his signature moniker, more or less.
I need a plan. No, that's exactly what predictable me would say. I need a strategy.
He leaves a good first impression with these changes on day one, mostly, but his fear is still winning out. He wears different clothes every day no matter how impractical they are. He eats food that hardly qualifies as food. He goes to school on a unicycle and crashes, you get the gist. Even with all that, the nightmares don't stop, and that's where the episode comes together exceptionally. He's so obsessed with being different that he doesn't realize how much he's hurting himself, and even his friends. How many times have we heard messages like, embrace your weirdness, or being different is okay, or you don't have to fit in? Don't get me wrong, that's worked a few times, but other times it really doesn't. Either way, seeing normality be encouraged in such a genuinely healthy manner is particularly effective. He realizes that behaving normally is more valuable than these drastic compromises ever were. So he comes to terms with his basic routine and he resolves to not let anyone hold it against him. Because to his surprise, everyone has their own. Lincoln's inner turmoil is believable, the artistry complementing it is fascinating and appropriate, he undergoes good character development, and the moral behind it can be appreciated at any point in time.
How do you say taco in Spanish? Taco.
Loudest mission, relative chaos. Is it cheating if I put one too many double-length episodes on this listing? Most of them are just that good. Even if they get twice the screen time to try. I made it vividly clear that I adore what Ronnie Anne's character grew into, and this is kind of where it all began. Even with how bad the Casagrandes was more often than not, sometimes really bad. Okay, never mind the stereotypical plot lines, the overrated Mexican actors. Not you, Danny Trejo, you're cool. And Spanish shoehorned into every other sentence. Bro, imagine rehashing the premise of the worst Loud House episode and it's twice as long.
There's 2 of them?
Even then though, several episodes are genuinely respectable, especially the one that basically started it all. Ronnie Ann and Bobby leave town for the weekend to visit their extended family, during which Bobby is surprisingly happy working at his grandfather's mercado, while Ronnie Ann is essentially miserable, only to find out that their mom wants all 3 of them to live there permanently. After seeing how many different jobs Bobby had in Royal Woods in the span of not even 2 seasons at this point, no freaking wonder he loves working there. He knows what he's doing, he's making his family happy, he keeps his financial stability, which I don't doubt his girlfriend would appreciate, and with that first bit of knowledge, it's safe to assume that he won't get fired anytime soon, unlike presumably all those other jobs. Well, at least permanently. That might seem contrived, but then you remember that Bobby's about as dumb as Lenny, so it all adds up perfectly without anyone even saying it. As they say, show, don't tell. I don't know what it is with Carlos Peña and airheaded Latinos, but I'm here for it. As for Ronnie Ann, well, this is taken to a whole new level. While he might be happy, the same can't be said for her. She doesn't get her own room as far as the family will let her know because apparently the moving was a surprise. She can't sleep or use the bathroom peacefully, and the family in general is kinda overbearing. One cousin insists on giving her a makeover, and her grandma insists on feeding her constantly. Which is kinda stereotypical for Mexican grandmas, but mine does the same to me, so fair enough. Knowing what we do about Ronnie Ann at this point, no wonder she's uncomfortable. She's brooding, she's stubborn, and hardly smiles with anyone that isn't Lincoln or her mom and her brother. So it makes sense that she values her personal space. Since she feels outnumbered and alone and not wanting to move, she consults Lori. Gee, how will the girl that loves her boyfriend so much she coerced her brother into dating a bully react to the news of him moving away? Eventually, Lori and Bobby talk things out, and after seeing how much he was thinking about her throughout this whole process, she concedes, realizing that it might be for the best. Probably for some of the reasons Bobby was so happy being there. We don't actually hear the conversation, but the implications are thorough enough. As for Ronnie Ann's conflict, well, there's honestly so much that really surprised me, and I don't think it's ever been talked about enough. She concedes as well, mainly because her mom was willing to pass up the move for her sake, and the family thoughtfully provided her a room of her own, without even being asked. But when you take past and future episodes of this series into account, this is an invaluable step in a severely underrated character arc. Take a moment to think about what Ronnie Ann's life was like until this point. Her parents are divorced, her mother is overworked. Heck, even after moving, she still only gets 1 day off a month, which is implied to be just as bad as before. Her dad literally works in another continent, and she really yearns for his presence, as we come to learn later. Her brother worked a lot of jobs, and when he wasn't, he was presumably with his girlfriend. Safe to say that she was really lonely until she met Lincoln. Literally the one time we see her talk to someone at school besides him is just to ask where he is. It makes perfect sense that she started picking on him specifically. As far as she could tell, there's no better way to get back at the girl hogging the part of your family that could have been there for you most of the time than by picking on some of her own. That might seem petty and immature, but then you remember the fact that she's a troubled 11-year-old girl at this point. That does not mean we should condone it though. The bullying is excessive, but it's not uncommon for kids to think that they're showing endearment and affection through these methods. Just ask Lynn. She still kept a positive and helpful attitude around her mom and Bobby most of the time, but it's safe to assume that her broken family, her mom's job, and her brother's priorities left her physically and mentally isolated. How do I know this for sure? It's exactly the reason her mother wanted them to move in the first place.
Okay, well, here goes. Ronnie Ann, Bobby, I've been thinking about this for a long time. I hate that you guys have to be alone so much, and we have this great family here. So when I found out that I could get a job at the city hospital, I thought maybe we could move here? What do you guys think?
It's honestly amazing how much of her character is conveyed to the audience across multiple episodes and with minimal dialogue focusing on it. Bro, someone give this girl a hug. Oh, thank you, Lincoln. Take notes, Owl House. This is how you earn sympathy when you start off as reckless and hurtful. Misunderstood my ass. With Lincoln, Ronnie Ann was brooding and abrasive as usual at first, but eventually much more playful. As for everyone else that wasn't related to her, her usual demeanor and presumed tough girl reputation add up cohesively. Heck, it was so prominent that Lincoln couldn't bring himself to trust her with one little egg. So it's remarkably compelling when she learns to be more open with her supposedly tough city friends. In credit to Lincoln, and how she's much more amiable by the time she makes her own best friend. You'd think I ship her with Lincoln considering how much I'm appreciating what their bond amounted to, but you'd be sorely mistaken for a lot of reasons supported even in the show itself. All things considered, there's genuine reasons why their relationship has been mostly platonic and should stay platonic. All I know is that if they truly saw each other in a romantic way, Lincoln would have cared a lot more about going to a girl's choice dance with her than a deal at an arcade. He would have fought a lot harder to get her to stay in Royal Woods and vice versa, even with the family giving him a good first impression. Heck, he never would have shown up at Great Lake City in the first place if Lori hadn't dragged him along.
I still don't get why I have to come along.
Because Ronnie is your girlfriend!
He only ever kissed her because he was goaded into it the first time, and the other time was to make her feel better after he impulsively insulted her, which stemmed from him getting teased as a result of her bullying. Even when she proved that she liked those kisses, her behavior in the future completely undermines the prospect of full-blown romance. We later see that some superstitious fraud predicted that they'd be a couple, and she was genuinely terrified of the notion because at that point, there was no doubting that she truly cherishes his friendship that much. At this point in time, she doesn't believe romance with him is what she ever needed to make up for her loneliness. On that note, I have no reason to doubt it anymore when he says,
She is not my girlfriend!
Mainly because there's Lincoln's own character growth to take into consideration, but we'll have to get to that in another entry on this list. After all these two have been through, it wouldn't be outlandish to say that they're very special to each other, just not in the way they thought at first, or really the way everyone around them was pressuring them and sometimes coercing them into. With all that being said, I have to digress. All things considered, this is why I firmly stand by what I said in my Amphibia review. Honestly, a character this narratively strong and compelling really deserved a better overall spin-off than the one this was amounting to. Especially considering the shallow reasons it was made instead, but anywho. This episode has its own merits of comedy and stakes, and it was the most noteworthy step in subtly nuanced, overarching, and just surprisingly amazing character growth. Roughing it. Most boys at Lincoln's age usually do feel genuinely conflicted about whether their sense of masculinity is good enough. Can we really fend for ourselves? Are we strong enough not just for our own sakes, but for the people we care about? And can we afford to even remotely indulge in what people wouldn't expect out of us? Shows as respectable as Gravity Falls have tackled the subject well enough, and it's done just as efficiently here, if not better. Most, if not all, young boys have felt like they have to reach a certain level of brawny, courageous, or capable in general. For a kid who has shown time and time again how much he loves his sisters, even this early in the show's runtime, there's no doubt that these questions are a lot more overwhelming. At least when Lori accidentally helps him realize that. The boy who's been surrounded by girls his whole life, paints their nails, sews for them, coaches for beauty pageants, gets mud facials, and watches what's basically The Bachelor with them. Okay, that's a biggie. Gets the impression that he might be too effeminate for his own good. In hopes of remedying that, he organizes a notably dangerous, literally, hiking trip with Clyde, and it goes about how you would expect. With how impulsive this whole idea was, they unsurprisingly can't even build a tent properly, they refuse to eat normal food, and he's basically being stereotypically stubborn and disgusting to compensate for his supposed femininity. Wow, fart jokes and male stereotypes that actually play into the plot meaningfully? How did they manage to screw this up 3 episodes later? After all that, it's basically just Tom and Jerry levels of slapstick, and I love it. They wake up with their mattress on water, the mattress pops and sends them flying, they accidentally break a beehive, they lie on a rock that turned out to be a wild moose, and Lincoln realizes that he's perfectly in over his head for an 11-year-old trying to prove he's manly. Only for what he was trying to undo to be his saving grace on several occasions. He learned from Lucy to play dead to survive a bear, which is scientifically accurate, learned to keep balance across a narrow surface from Lola's pageant work, sewed ponchos out of leaves thanks to Lenny, lifted heavy objects efficiently thanks to Lynn, made ropes thanks to strand making with Luna, and used mud to treat as poison ivy like Lori taught him from the facials. Also scientifically accurate, mind you. Notice anything about most of what I just listed there? Most of it was never truly feminine, and none of it ever truly undermined his masculinity. If anything, it enhanced it, and more notably, it saved his life. Even with all these circumstances, his masculinity was always perfectly balanced, especially for an 11-year-old. It's not like his sisters ever did anything to undermine it, like having him wear high heels until he's, okay, dude, you're really pushing it. Instead of Lincoln showing how he survives with 10 sisters like he does most of the time, they show how they help him survive in general. A pleasant twist on the show's initial premise, it's well written, it's funny, and it's a perfect display of the character our protagonist has and hopefully will become through the people he loves most and the very heart of this series.
Art isn't art unless it's difficult.
Really loud music. Oh, Luna. Imagine if the thing most people sadly know you for wasn't a bland as fuck load of contradictions, redundancies, and detriments to your character development done merely for shallow attention. When you put that giant blemish aside, though, no, really, she's not in this episode. Thank you. Credit where credit is due. Luna holds the best episode that revolves around one specific Loud Sister because, honestly, the episode in question is near perfection. While it might not necessarily focus on the heart of the show, it's still fun, it's insightful, its music is enjoyable, it's compelling, and it's visually fascinating. Luna enters a music competition where she needs to write an original song, which she already has, but after hearing the judges' criteria, she realizes that maybe she needs to write something that the whole world will like. She believes she needs a song that can make anyone happy, even at the expense of her musical style. Her feelings are so conflicted that she starts hallucinating her whole family performing musical numbers, only to realize that her mind is basically scouting for what she's looking for, which she finds in a pop song Lily is dancing to and aww, look at her little steps. God, is there a single bad or mediocre episode revolving around just this little cutie? Okay, more than one. Luna sees that everyone loves the song, and when I say everyone, I mean everyone. Honestly, the diversity felt a little forced at first, but then I remembered Luna's motivation.
Cause maybe you've got the song the whole world will love.
A whole world?
What's that? A genuine reason for all these cultures and ethnicities to come together that feels genuine, isn't mentioned in the moment or shoved in your face? I never thought I'd say this in that regard, but well done, Nickelodeon. See, was it that hard to be subtle about it?
Yes!
Again, show, don't tell. Luna finds inspiration, and her plan works a little too well. The judges love her song so much that they try to turn her into another predictably successful pop star. They make her ditch her usual outfit, her talent, and even her name. All while spurring her into thinking that if she values success, there are sacrifices to be made. And when she can't bring herself to compromise everything, the judges threaten to cancel it all, indirectly pushing her into thinking about what truly matters in the arts. Do you do what you want to do because you believe in your work and put your mind and heart into it? Or because you're just in it for fame, money, and attention? Honestly, it's hard to tell sometimes. Most, if not all, artists strive for some semblance of fame and what comes with it. Some do it for genuinely selfish reasons, or to humbly make ends meet at the minimum, and it usually shows in their public image. Others do it because they can't get enough of it. Did I spend almost a half hour talking smack about, ironically, the weakest point of Luna's character simply thinking I would be lauded for it? No, on the contrary. Or did I pay attention, genuinely realize that it was a disservice to her character with ulterior motives, and humbly wanted my voice to be heard? It's always best to focus on the nuance and passion of the work you do, and to remember why you do it in the first place. As for Luna, it all kicks in through a surprisingly potent song, leading her to make her choice through the music that she originally wrote for this contest in the first place. And let me just say this right now, Play It Loud is genuinely an absolute banger.
Play it loud, I got no time for turning it down. Play it loud.
It's almost a crime that it's not even 2 minutes long. Maybe it's a coincidence, but bonus points for the Schoolhouse Rock font. The true-to-life conflict, the character arc, the great message, the nuance, the humor, the visuals, it's got it all. My only complaint is that they should have cut the last 4 words of the dialogue.
Do you know what you've just given up?
Yeah, but I know what I'm keeping. The real Luna Loud.
Imagine how much more powerfully subtle it'd be if that wasn't there.
Do you know what you've just given up?
Yeah, but I know what I'm keeping.
Inside this tiny space.
You tripped at the finish line, but hey, you still got first place, so to speak. Well, Not literally as far as this video is concerned. There is still one episode left on this list, but just like last time, guys, it's time for a lightning round. Episodes that are great in a couple of ways, haven't been mentioned yet, almost made the rankings, or all of the above. Left in the dark. The one that started it all, an efficient introduction of each loud girl, and a simple enough display of what lies at the center of the series. The self-proclaimed man with a plan shows us how he earned the title while indirectly introducing the audience to his 10 sisters, making the case. The first instance of Lincoln showing us that while he may have commonly selfish priorities like any kid his age, he won't hesitate to make things right with his family, even at the expense of that. And even his crush at the time. Project Loud House. Honestly, it was kind of a toss-up between which of these two I would put on the 10th slot. Ultimately, I went with the alternative, but this one has a similar idea that's worth appreciating. Namely, the idea that no matter how bad things get, Lincoln and his sisters will always have each other's backs. Driving Miss Hazy. I don't have much to say about this one, just that Lenny is adorable, and it was really clever of Lincoln to teach her how to drive using fashion ideas and terminology. I'm glad she got her driver's license eventually, even if that did take several seasons. And this line is just really funny.
That's the problem! I haven't been speaking Lenny! There's a country named after me?
Oh, Lenny, you lovable dumbass. Sleuth or Consequences. The mystery of who clogged the toilet is genuinely engaging, and the audience really has no real means to guess that it was just Lucy until the time comes. Honestly, Lincoln taking the blame for her is perfectly in character, and I don't think I could have stomached seeing Lucy get teased, presumably to the point of crying. Snowboard. Probably Lisa's best episode. Okay, tied for first. Usually when a character becomes hooked on something, you take it at face value, but in a clever twist, she was using reverse psychology in hopes of discouraging the family from wanting snow days all the time. And honestly, the process is really funny.
Is nothing sacred?
Speaking of Lisa though, friend or foe? Did I pronounce that right? Okay, good. Basically the episode that set Lisa apart from all the nerd tropes I've seen in fiction, most of which I'm not a fan of, except for one. Because unlike most of them, this episode humanized her through genuine vulnerabilities, and honestly, her bond with Darcy is perfectly adorable. Lisa realizes through her that there is a purpose to having friends that shouldn't be pragmatic or utilitarian, and it kicks in for her through the mere offer of a cookie. God damn it, this is too cute, man!
It's too cute! It's disgusting!
All the more reason I'm glad they're utilizing Darcy more often in Season 8 so far. On that note, Incognito. Lisa disguises her robot as her to attend Darcy's birthday while she's off meeting an idol of hers, only to see how much it means to Darcy that she showed up because the latter knows how selectively social and antisocial her best friend usually is. So it's really endearing to see how she's moved to do the right thing and ditching the liar reveal cliché for good measure. Also, without context, this line is kind of funny.
He's over there, recovering from his contribution to science.
I don't know if I'll get another chance to talk about this, so let me take this moment to talk about Todd. I honestly thought I'd get bored of this consistently monotone tone, and he does overstay his welcome here and there, but Brian Stepanek's voice work really carries it. Who also happens to play Lynn Sr. in both versions. Bro, imagine being so talented that you're perfect casting for a guy you only voiced. One of the very few good things I can say about the Really Loud House, but let's not dwell on that. Funny business. Basically the episode that made me adore Luann while tackling the idea of positive feedback going to your head through her bond with Lincoln. How many 14-year-olds do you know that diligently run their own business, let alone can trust other people to help out reliably in that regard? Her struggle is perfectly believable, and as far as Lincoln is concerned, it's not uncommon for getting good laughs out of people to be problematically encouraging. While I'm mentioning Luann though, no laughing matter. I knew at some point she would feel disheartened at her comedy being scorned by her family, and I appreciate what the episode is going for here. But the resolution would have been a bit more effective if the family didn't groan at her puns throughout most of the series until this point. Stage plight. Huh. A loud sibling with real reasons to be reluctant about romantic endeavors through a love interest with an actual personality? How is it that this was done well every time, except ironically in the most popular instance? Don't answer that, I got about a third of a video's worth of reasons.
Know your place, trash.
I already covered most of what I like about Luann and Benny over there, so there's not much else I can say here. His meek kindness and her playfulness complement each other adorably, which really makes me wish for more episodes involving them. Dull day afternoon. We are 7 seasons in. We know damn well how much Mr. Coconuts means to Luann. So to see his original owner taken back without warning, while Luann comes to the realization that she should return him, is great character growth. Even if he ultimately decided to let her keep him. For bro's about to rock, as you did it there. Everything there is to like about Luna Loud, you're probably going to find it here or in Yes Man. Quoting iconic music?
Sorry, bro. I fought the law, and the law won.
Check. For amiable exuberance? Check. Character growth that displays her sense of ambition and thoughtfulness? Check. For signature rockstar energy being put to good use? Check. Homespun. It's kind of funny that it took a whole season to get an episode about the literal title of the series, but it delivers nonetheless. The kids reminiscing of all the good times in their somewhat crummy home under the impending fear that it's going to be destroyed by a tornado just provokes a lot of genuine endearment and appreciation, both on their end and the audience's. The Old and the Restless and Jerry Antics. Admittedly, I wasn't too familiar with Fred Willard's work until after his passing, but what I am familiar with now is pure gold. And here, it's no different for, ironically, relatively different reasons. I would show the other examples, but some of those would definitely get me demonetized. Rest in peace, King. While I'm mentioning him, guys, let's have a quick moment of silence out of respect. The Whole Picture and Fandom Pains. These two are noticeably different in premise and plot, but they have something in common that I think is worth appreciating when you look into it. In the former, Lincoln realizes that his childhood memories will be fine thanks to his sisters, even after accidentally deleting the pictures. While in the latter, Lucy realizes that some things are more enjoyable when you're not doing them alone, like watching her vampire show after Lori and Lenny got into it, and then missing their company after some complications. It's not about what we have, what we do, or what we enjoy. It's about who we enjoy it with. Not allowed. Lincoln has to write a report about his birth story and oh, look at baby Lincoln. But unlike his sister stories, there's no record of his and mom and dad won't disclose why. So he investigates and honestly, watching his imagination do half the work while Clyde is just being supportive is just really innocent and charming. He starts thinking that he's not really their kid, then he questions his white hair and that he might be an adopted superpowered alien, and then he thinks he might have been switched at birth, but then his parents come clean. He was delivered by the First Lady of the United States in an act of kindness while she was on classified business. Lincoln's relieved that he's truly allowed, and the episode in general is just really wholesome. Legends and How Double Dare You. It might be the nostalgia talking, but can we get more episodes about classic Nickelodeon game shows, please? All I'm saying is I'd pay good money for the Louds to climb the aggro crag. Pretty much every episode revolving around Lily. I said it before. I don't mean to exaggerate when I said this is probably the most adorable baby in all of fiction. I actually felt bad when, say, a bird knocked over her ice cream after all that trouble, or when she lost her musical toy and couldn't smile. Even in her weakest episode, I don't think there's a single line out of her that doesn't make me go, aww. And then there's this moment, which is funny enough with the context. They spent the whole episode trying to stop Lily from saying what they thought was damn it, but if you read her lips, that's not even what she said here. Yeah, it technically undid the whole plot, but it's like the pie bomb in SpongeBob. Conclusive consequences that you're not meant to take seriously because it's just that funny. Antisocial and a dark and story night. Honestly, props to this show for these episodes and really the amount of times in general it encourages kids that there's ways to have fun outside of just electronics while telling good stories in the process. Let me put it this way, they're saying go touch grass. Speaking of electronics though, the Loud Cloud. Props to this episode for building upon those ideas even further by showing how over-reliance on technology can really backfire. Lincoln and Lisa build an app to keep track of personal reminders for the family and other utilities such as Dad's recipes and the song Luna wrote for Finally! Too little too late, but something meaningful finally popped out of this garbage relationship. What? We don't get to hear any of the song, and a thoughtfully talented singer like Luna botched it so hard, she needs the lyrics on hand?
Are you kidding me?
Wow. 4 seasons since Sam got introduced, and once again, she is still derailing Luna's character just by existing, while having none of her own.
You suck!
Okay, I'm done pulling punches. Half the time, this character is the definition of dead weight. And the other half, she's a fucking narrative leech. This character and this relationship have been so bland and empty throughout the years, and to the point where, dare I say it, even Luna's attraction to women is, well, how would she put it exactly?
Bogus, dude!
But sure, Nickelodeon. Give them more episodes and moments in total than the other official couples, and even a graphic novel dedicated to just them for good measure. Because who cares about good character growth and relationships that feel real when you're making easy money instead? Never mind who they are, all that matters is the fact that they're both girls, right? Nothing more, nothing less. Because even in 2025, the community notorious for its vanity still believes that it is entitled to publicity and attention, and we just have to give them what they want, right? If I had a nickel for every time a respectable character attracted to men was neutered for the sake of a terribly written gay romance, I'd have 3 nickel. Really? That many? But what are the odds that anyone who needs to have this conversation is ready for it? So, moving on. Friended. Ronnie Ann's character growth comes to fruition in a compelling way when it results in her meeting her best friend and taking drastic measures to ensure that they become neighbors. After everything I said earlier, do you guys honestly think Season 1 or even Season 2 Ronnie Ann wouldn't have treated Sid any differently than she does here? Their bond is endearing and compelling, Sid is quirky, but not to the point where it's pretentiously oblivious or just not funny. And this friendship and this new character is one of the few good things I can say came out of the Casa Grandes. Sister Act. 2 characters voiced by Grey Delisle pretending to be the other character voiced by Grey Delisle while sounding like they're still the first characters voiced by Grey Delisle. Okay, that kind of comedy just writes itself. The voice actress in question nails it, and it has a great message about not avoiding your responsibilities. Cowpie Kid and Lynn in Order. I touched on why I liked these episodes last time, so I'll try to be brief here. Lynn is abrasively energetic to the point where she lacks a sense of tact and kindness most of the time. So to see her develop both these traits through bonding with Liam is excellent character growth. She benches him during a championship match because she knows he's too injured, but he doesn't want to admit it. And he shows her that being merciful as a hall monitor might make the job easier and more practical. All while she brings out his physical capabilities in a way that makes him happy. Liam brings out the best in her. I'm willing to bet he only took the hall monitor job to spend time with her since she's the only other one. And their chemistry is compelling. Never mind all that though. She likes his European boy somehow, and the showrunners have so much faith in him that he's the focus of the next Christmas special. Why? I don't know who's calling these shots, but I swear, sometimes they can't recognize a good romance if it struck them in the face. Sand hassles. Not to undermine Lucy's character because there's a lot to appreciate, but I'm glad that they showed that she isn't just a doom and gloom goth trope and that she's perfectly capable of enjoying life in normal ways. Selfie improvement. Honestly, up until this point, Laurie's character growth revolving around Bobby felt a little neglected. Their bond was romantic in most of the right ways, but for too long, sometimes it seemed like Laurie was willing to hurt him or others for her own selfish gains. Heck, she forced her brother to date his bully, not even for his own sake, just to make Bobby happy. So seeing her realize that making him drive for 3 hours after a surgery just for a fucking selfie really drives the idea that Bobby has given her a sense of tact she hardly had before. Friends in dry places. I think most older kids, and even young adults to say the least, have been in Lincoln's position here growing up. There's no telling if in the future we'll still have the same friends we've grown to cherish, and maybe we dread the idea of growing apart or being forgotten. So to see them resolve to stay together by the end is honestly heartwarming, but only time will tell. All the more reason I adore the idea of the Action News team. Season's cheatings. As much as I've enjoyed the Loud Cousins so far, this Christmas special takes the cake. Lincoln was so caught up in rigging the gift swap to the point where he forgets about who he was assigned, resulting in him willingly sacrificing what he was striving for. Even then, he still gets a present from his original Secret Santa, and dang it, Lily, haven't I praised your adorableness enough?
My emotions!
I don't doubt that Lincoln loves his sisters and vice versa, but this is the first time I think we've seen it from the youngest, and it's perfectly wholesome. A Stella performance. At this point in time, Stella was serviceable and charming in her role, but she was a little lacking in emotional vulnerabilities, unlike any well-written character. She's gentle, creative, studious, and mechanically inclined, but she's still prone to impulsive behavior like any real kid. So seeing her glossophobia rear its head and give some implications about who she was before moving to Royal Woods was truly endearing. The whole episode fleshed her out in a way we hadn't seen before, and it was rather thought-provoking. She's never mentioned what her life or her friends were like before meeting Lincoln, and now that she finally mentions a moment, it's a time where she was humiliated. Maybe to the point where she never opened up to anyone in her hometown again. Maybe it's just headcanon, but it seems like she hardly had any friends, if any at all, and was rather reserved until she met Lincoln. It would explain why she was so eager to befriend his squad when they met, especially since she didn't try befriending anyone else at that point, and she forgave them all for thinking that she wanted to go out with one of them. There's just a lot of nuance and implications to work off of, and it's part of the reason I think Stella's character could be utilized a little differently and much more than what it already has. Present danger. Considering the small time skip we got, yeah, it was only a matter of time before they gave Lincoln a birthday episode. Yo, get yourself some friends who will so much as nail cosplay just to make you happy on your special day. Also, it's nice to see Rusty not be a cocky idiot for once and just having him doing something nice for a change. Riddle School. Everyone in Lincoln's squad gets a moment to shine and reflect their personalities while solving a set of riddles in hopes of stopping a school-wide prank. Honestly, this episode was just a fun watch, especially with that knowledge. Only mine will tell. Yo, shoutouts to episodes where someone has an in-story reason to not talk. Gotta be one of my favorite genders. It encourages the writers and animators to be more creative, it makes the dialogue more concise, and it pushes the viewers into actually paying better attention. In this case, it revolves around a character I already love, so you can't go wrong with it. Honestly, I'm down for most of everything from Season 8 that has aired in my country so far. On that note, shoutouts to Debbie Derryberry for bringing back her Jimmy Neutron voice. I straight up recognized it on the spot. No time to spy. Even after all this time since introducing Lincoln's David Steele adoration, the whole spy gimmick still feels really forced, especially since it spawned this whole movie, but a lot of good came out of it here. The villain's motivations are understandable and thought-provoking. Myrtle accidentally sent her husband to space where he presumably starved to death or ran out of air by the time he could be saved. Yeah, that rocket was not designed to harbor a person. Somehow, this is surprisingly dark, but still subtle enough for a kid's movie. So it makes sense that his wife wants to do the same to the Louds. And when she's revealed to be behind it all and that she wanted the family to reach her lair, you look back and wonder, is that why the door to the hideout conveniently opened? Was the family in any real danger up until they fell into the trap? Were those guards missing their shots at Lily on purpose? All of their motivations and bravado was exactly what the villain wanted, to the point where it plays a part in Lincoln's character development and the moral of the story. The whole film, Lincoln's thrilled that a retired spy is going to be wed into his family, hoping for some sort of adventure like in his comic books, only to realize that if he wasn't so caught up in his fantasies, his whole family wouldn't be trapped in a rocket to be left to die. If he had just stayed put and let Myrtle's agency take over like intended, the villain would have already lost. He has every reason to blame himself to the point where he discards his comic books in shame and sacrifices himself so this family can get off the rocket. Learning what Myrtle told him from the beginning of the conflict. Being a hero calls for a lot more than just the grandeur you see in fiction. On top of that, the resolution is really sweet, especially with the music. In the end, Myrtle blames herself for all of this happening, but her newfound family reassures her that they're fighting with her, not for her. In a cartoony world like this one, I don't see a reason to undermine that idea if it's coming from a 12-year-old boy. And I'm sorry, if you put your leitmotif in a soft orchestra, you got me. There's just a few minor issues. Problem 1. How did no one identify the Myrtle imposter until Lincoln showed up? All it took was one look at the plunger stuck to his head. Problem 2. Is Lenny really dumb enough to throw away the one thing that could have helped them get out of the rocket just to take out one henchman? I honestly doubt it. Problem 3. If Lori caught the fish in the end, it would have shown real progress for her side plot of catching the bouquet at the wedding. Problem 4, and it's kind of a biggie. Remember when Luna established in her best episode that rock and roll is her style and she won't compromise it so drastically? Yeah, that's gone here. I get that she wants to perform at a family wedding, but she's practically just doing karaoke of a pop song. Go dance with your family, you dummy. Last but not least, the Loud House movie. Maybe it's because I watched this film during a difficult time in my life, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. It might sound pessimistic, but the opening song is probably the best one in the movie. The rest are kinda hit or miss. Lincoln's bond with Lily gets explored, which is something that even today doesn't happen often. We get to look into the origins of the Loud name. Yeah, it's actually called the Loud House movie for more than just the basic reasons. His motivation is a little redundant, but I'd say it's different enough. While there, he was hoping for just a trophy of any kind. Here, he just wants genuine acknowledgement for what he does best. They don't really give awards or praise for something as abstract as planning, no matter how pivotal it is here. So it makes sense that he feels ostracized, and he lets the fact that he descends from Scottish nobility go to his head. To the point where he's willing to leave his old life behind for good at first. As for the villain, I wouldn't mind how petty her motivations are if she wasn't so boring. Like I said before, the supernatural elements are jarring, but I've seen more desperate grasps at grandeur. Lastly, thank you for retconning the only part of L is for Love that ultimately mattered. Now I never willingly have to watch that episode again. But with all that being said, let's get to what I trust is the best episode of The Loud House as of right now. This choice might be really surprising because I looked around on the internet and I never saw anyone mention this episode whenever someone asked what their favorite is. But I firmly stand by it nonetheless. This is the episode that made me believe that there was a lot more to this cartoon than what meets the eye. This episode led me to believe that this series is not just here for quick laughs, it's not just here to fulfill a quota for Nickelodeon, it's not just here to keep your kids distracted for a half hour. Most, if not every episode up until the point of this one, like any ongoing series, is cumulatively here to tell a story. And in this episode, it feels like it all expertly amounted to something, or rather, someone. If you've been paying attention, you might think there's some bias in this choice, but don't get it twisted. This episode is so good, it's what spawned these preferences, not the other way around. So without further ado, white hair. There is beauty in simplicity, and that's what this franchise used to pride itself, and sometimes still does. Many would say it's what allowed it to rise to prominence in the first place, especially in an era of so many shows with overarching serialized stories. The simple premise of a normal boy showing us how he survives in a family of 10 unique sisters, who he is and what he grows into through them, complemented with a unique comic strip art style and ever so effective cartoon shenanigans. This episode has all of that, and so many more elements that are just as, for lack of a better term, beautiful. A culmination of Lincoln's character growth, an homage to the rough drafts of this series, and a resolution for the future through someone that grew into a beloved character. No gimmicks, nothing unnatural in reality, no grasping at high stakes or grandeur, just the utmost faith in the characters and the world that has been created. And it's all done concisely and cohesively in just 11 minutes of downright perfection. Lincoln hears that a new girl moved to town and is joining his class, so he adopts his tough guy mantle in hopes of impressing her when he meets her on the bus, while avoiding his sisters on his way out, remembering what happened the last time he took their romantic advice. Only 2 minutes in, and this is already what L is for Love wishes it was. Lincoln has actual reasons to be reluctant about his romantic ambitions because, unlike Luna, he has 10 sisters that might intervene for the worse, he behaves completely in character, he doesn't know this girl at all, and the narrative doesn't pretend that he ever did and doubled down on those mistakes. God, I hate these episodes. He tries to leave for school without them noticing, but of course they catch him at the door and start questioning his choices. So while he makes a run for it, he comes across a rabbit with 25 sisters and accidentally knocks himself out, resulting in nightmares of his greatest fears. He has more than twice as many sisters trying to influence his choices, and even worse, he scares off the new girl as a result. Just a side note, the world building in this rabbit dream is very brief, but if you pay attention, there is so many small details to artistically appreciate. The change in the design of the house, the fact that they're all hopping as they run, which is funny and adorable, Beaver Clyde eating the wooden popsicle stick instead of the popsicle, the sonnets of Shape's hair, it's also easy to miss, that's why it's so great. Maybe I'm not paying enough attention with every episode, but it honestly felt like they were doing more than the bare minimum with the details for once. Lincoln wakes up and sees the rabbit succeed where he hasn't, resulting in him thinking that maybe his sisters were right to barge in this time. He rushes home knowing that the bus will be here soon and begs his sisters for guidance. If you've seen every episode that chronologically aired until this point, except maybe the bad ones, you'll know that here is where it all comes together spectacularly. The sisters weren't going to change anything about him. They were just going to ask why he did it himself. The ambitious but lovable dork of a brother that paints your nails, coaches your pageantry, sews ponchos for you, hugs you when you're scared, makes sure your boyfriend isn't cheating on you, teaches you to read without shaming you for it, rescues frogs and risks a flunking grade just for you, trades an autograph he waited hours to get just to make sure you're safe, missed a convention to save you from being teased. I could be here all day listing all the good Lincoln has done for his sisters because, as I've said time and time again, he just loves them that much. If Lincoln Albert Loud can show so much love, adoration, devotion, kindness, and sacrifice to the 10 most important girls in his life, imagine what he's capable of for a girl that isn't related to him. A girl he wants in his life as more than just a friend, someone he wants to be just as important to him as his sisters, if not more. Someone who never had to hurt him so he would notice her and kept hurting him. Someone he wasn't pressured or coerced into dating, sometimes not even for his own sake. And someone who we have seen as time went on become one of his most cherished friends. I've made it clear enough that I have the utmost respect and admiration for Ronnie Ann's character growth, and that's exactly why I believe she and Lincoln should stay as friends. Because the evidence has shown that what they have now is for the best. And more importantly in this case, what they wanted. But I have to digress. Normally the saying, "you're perfect just the way you are," is cliche and disingenuous, but all things considered, this is one of the rare times where it's appropriate, especially coming from someone as sweet as Lenny. Even then, the sisters came up with their own adjectives for him, and every single one of them felt completely earned.
Lincoln, you're perfect just the way you are.
You're kind.
You're fashionable.
You're rockin'.
You're funny.
You're tough. You're deep.
You're friendly.
You're smart.
And for good measure, we got Lily's best cute moment.
You thinking out.
Wait a minute. A main character realizing that being himself is more than enough for what he's striving for? This show did in 9 minutes what took Ruby a whole fucking season. He gets to the bus in time, barely. The new girl happens to be sitting alone. He introduces himself, gets a genuine laugh out of her by roasting himself. They share a snack, and the episode ends on a gentle but perfectly sweet note. Ronnie Ann is off doing her own thing, or at least essentially she still is. Their bond has become compellingly platonic, and wouldn't you know it, a new girl shows up and believably becomes one of Lincoln's closest friends. It's as if the stars were aligned for Lincoln, and oh my god, could this be any more perfect?
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
When the episode is so good that the fan-made follow-ups are just as engaging. Well, at the time, and not every line is golden. And this is coming from someone who usually scoffs at the mere idea of fanfiction. Unlike No Such Luck, fanfiction for this episode was made out of appreciation rather than contempt. It's like this whole episode is an antidote to some of the bad ones. It's really just that amazing. There's a reason I said before that Lincoln and Stella is the base fanship. It respects canon and the characters, it's genuine, and it's overall just outright endearing. It's the Dipper and Pacifica of the Loud House. Not the lead's first romantic pairing, but definitely the best and healthiest. The setup was so masterful that this ship being platonic 6 seasons later makes me think the showrunners just quit on the idea. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not saying this because of the events of Be Stella My Heart. That episode served as an essential and healthy setback. Yeah, they just met her that day, man. Of course it's not a date, and she didn't want any of them to be her boyfriend. The only reason they were under that impression in the first place was because of Rusty. Lincoln trusts him as a friend, but he's also the guy so delusionally confident with girls, the one time he's actually successful with them is when he resorts to literal dark magic. At this point in time, Rusty didn't have enough evidence to support and establish that reputation, so it makes sense that Lincoln and his friends bought into the idea. Even if Stella's feelings were mutual at this point, her character has shown that she's smart enough to know that it would have been too soon anyways. All this episode shows is that the writers were biding their time properly with this pairing, and that while it was love at first sight for Lincoln, and maybe even for Stella, He cares about who she is rather than just what she is. The only time he couldn't was when he was unintentionally tricked into it. As for the present, I'm no expert on feelings, but even I know they don't go away that easily. At least, coincidentally, just in the case of Lincoln. Clyde and Rustin have moved on to other girls. Liam's chemistry with Lynn is apparent enough, to say the least. And knowing Zach, he'd probably mistake Stella for an alien imposter if she really felt anything for him. He's done worse for the sake of his conspiracies, and even then, it's clear enough that if she's meant to be with anyone, it's Lincoln. Otherwise, well, one of the best episodes in the whole series, and the protagonist's character development up until that point, ultimately served no real purpose. Maybe there's a reason Lincoln didn't ask her to the Valentine's dance. Maybe there's a reason Stella and Ronnie Ann have canonically never met, even to this day. Maybe there's a reason he's afraid of pursuing her romantically in general. The last time he did, he almost lost all of his friends, and this time, that might include her. From Lincoln's point of view, it feels like too much of a minefield when you think about it. And I get what it's like to have that kind of fear. You could argue he really loves her at this point in time, and for all I knows, the feeling is mutual. But the real question is, will this leap of faith ever come? Remember how I said in the last video that this franchise doesn't know what it wants? Well, this is by far the most egregious example. Ronnie Ann moves away. Lincoln forms a new love interest. Ronnie Ann makes it explicitly clear that she's happy as Lincoln's friend. It all adds up, and we may as well dump the ambitions of that pervert now that we see why that was also questionable. And yet, the ball was hardly rolling with Stella, she lacked traction as a result, she gets sidelined almost permanently. Even in the live-action version, they add another girl to the group that actually comes off as a friend immediately, sidelining Stella even further, while keeping up the will they won't they nonsense with Ronnie Ann and pairing Lincoln with yet another new girl in the live action? What the hell? Enough of this romantic purgatory! Just trust the truth of the narrative and let the boy be happy. It's not enough to commit to ideas, which you don't anyways. You gotta put thought into your ideas to know they're good and put faith in them because you've had several this whole time. And I'm not just talking about the romances. Suddenly, Lincoln's newest nerd fixation is David Steele, and the old one's rarely mentioned again. What, was one bad episode all it took? Lori's off to college? Great. Oh, she's back after just one semester for a gap year. Okay, they're not even trying to hide it. Enough of this flip-flopping. Forget about what you think is popular and what isn't. That's not paying off anyways. And just worry about telling stories that actually feel real for these characters. There are ways to show growth and progress that aren't just what time passing implies. I never thought Lenny would get her driver's license, and yet there she was 5 seasons later. I never thought Misty's Togepi would evolve in the 3 seasons he knew he could, even though it happens through the most recurring theme in the franchise. Yet there he was in season 7 after being gone for a whole season. I never thought I'd see Sora get into Smash Bros. Despite his dominance in all the popularity polls. I thought I'd spent what was left of my childhood thinking Phineas and Isabella's connection would never be explored from his perspective, and yet, there they were in 2015. In short, I never thought I'd see all these natural conclusions become a reality, so I don't believe this should be any different. This might seem presumptuous, but I'm tired of writers and executives that insist that loving someone being part of your character is seen as a bad thing, because that's definitely not the case here. There's really no shame in having feelings for someone you genuinely care about. So can this narrative please stop acting like there is? It has treated Lincoln and Stella's connection like it's nothing special, even though just from the potency of what led to them meeting, it's the opposite of that. As for what's the holdup? My best conjecture is that this idea was neglected because this was the last episode Chris Savino wrote and was involved in before being rightfully fired. And I get it. A love story written by him can't possibly be pure or genuine. And they're right. Because ironically, he confessed in a Q&A after his termination that somehow all of this wasn't romantic, Lincoln's endgame pairing in his eyes is still Ronnie Ann, and he sees Stella as little more than a diversity token for the friend group.
Is this how you get your sick kicks?
Suddenly, Ronnie Ann and Lori's toxic behavior in the first season makes a lot more sense. Why am I not surprised that a corrupt sex offender doesn't recognize a good romance even when he wrote the setup himself? Yep, to him, none of this was ultimately romantic because God forbid the protagonist not end up with a girl he was practically groomed into being with.
Go yourself.
I wouldn't blame the showrunners if they refused to humor him in any way, and to the point where they're not even aware of this interview. Heck, if it weren't for dumb luck and the Wayback Machine, I wouldn't either. If that's really the issue though, what's stopping them then? I never thought I'd say this, but Twitter was right. Friends to lovers really is the best kind of romance. When it's done right. You didn't even... Go away. Don't misunderstand though. I know all too well how shipping can screw over a franchise, and it arguably already has here. But, ironically, this might be the one time where it'll do more good than harm, if any harm at all. With what we know and what's been established between Lincoln and Stella, and after all they've been through together and with their friends, it's not too late. Unlike another pairing that, admittedly, I'm getting a little tired of mentioning, this one isn't a narrative disaster or anything resembling it. It's just more or less unfinished. No damage control, no arbitrary emptiness, and no bullshit. It's wild how Allison Stoner went from voicing an S-tier love interest and a character I adore to a trash-tier love interest that I genuinely resent. Lincoln and Stella's bond never pretended to be something that it isn't. Two characters who for a long time now have been an important and believable part of each other's lives because we've seen it all from day one, rather than just making contrived implications that, ironically, make them look worse in the narrative. And we can actually believe that this can organically grow into something even bigger. Something that doesn't undermine real growth through a shoehorned DeviantArt OC that had no genuine business being anything more than just a friend. A pair of characters that we've grown to both love and have truthfully earned it. It's not the first time a 12-year-old on Nickelodeon was part of an incredible love story across multiple seasons, or an incredible story in general. The GOAT! But we can think even bigger than this. These showrunners can't stop what the fandom is most notoriously known for, but here is a chance to discourage it in the best way official content can, while showing slow but tremendous continuity and a sense of artistic faith in ideas that have been here for a very long time. Ironically, the last episodes of Eno Row could actually sabotage his most shallow intentions. I mentioned before that Stella deserves to be utilized in more ways than she has, and this is what I meant. How often is the narrative focused on them alone rather than lumping her in with his friends? Rhetorical question, that's practically been all the time, and so far, it's getting worse. Don't get me wrong though, they've had moments here and there, and I appreciate the fact that she genuinely gets along with the whole squad. But all things considered, and I'm trying to mean this humbly, maybe this shouldn't be all it amounts to. It's not too late to go in a direction that has felt completely deserved for a very long time now. Especially since it would very likely spark a lot of interest. Take it from someone who paid no real attention to this franchise until about a year ago. How do you think I, of all people, got into Gravity Falls? And well, as far as that franchise is concerned, look where I am with it now. Do you think I only like it just because of Dipper and Pacifica? Or because the characters are actually something worth appreciating outside of, say, branding or an ensemble of tropes? Sometimes you just need a narrative hook to bring people into better ideas, and this might just be it. Or this might just be both. Does this show want the respect it had in its early seasons? Does it want to stop stagnating in the obscurity and infamy that destroyed its reputation? Does it want its most recent season premieres and whatnot to stop bombing? Start treating your characters more like actual people with stories instead of props for settings. That's what Slice of Life is ultimately all about. And maybe this is by far the first and best step forward. What better way to move on from its creator's disgrace than by definitively discarding, arguably, his most popular ambition for the protagonist? Does his show want the tweets and the fan art that reaches thousands of likes in minimal time? Or is it going to keep letting itself get associated with mediocrity and incest of all things? I genuinely can't remember the last time, or any time at all, a tweet about this show garnered so much positive reception. Remember that Robin analogy I made at the start of the last video? Well, the metaphor goes deeper than I thought. He was genetically born as a vessel for an apocalyptic monster, and he had a choice to make. Either kill him permanently with his own magic and blood, and potentially die with him, or cop out with a holy weapon and put him to sleep for 1,000 years, willing his wrath on his descendants. So, what's it gonna be for this white-haired tactician? Will these showrunners take respectable risks with storylines that any real fan would want to see after all these years, and realize that he's not defined by his corrupt creator? Or keep living in fear and settle for run-of-the-mill plots and predictability that'll ultimately mean nothing? If Season 9's synopsis are any indication, it seems like the latter so far. A character that basically started off as a girlfriend and evolved into, ironically, the best of friends, and a character that started off as the best of friends and maybe evolves into his girlfriend. A girl that shows too much confidence for her own good, and one that needed to build some. There's just so much potential for so many great storylines right in front of them for well over 7 years now, and nothing has been done with it? But what do I know? I'm just a Mexican dude with a film degree, extensive knowledge of the series, and dreams of becoming a writer, so maybe I'm in over my head. After nearly 8 seasons, I've seen time and again who these characters are, and there's more than enough good not just in them, but in the series as a whole. And I want to believe these narrative oversights can be owned up to healthily. It's not really even a matter of pure faith. Even with Savino's creative direction gone, how many good episodes mentioned in this video did he have zero or minimal involvement in? Rhetorical question, by the way. All I know is that with acknowledgement of what's good and bad, knowing your characters and who they grow into, focusing on ideas that bring real joy to audiences, and complementing that well enough with new ones, then maybe this franchise can actually earn some respect back. In terms of fictional narratives, and more importantly here, real-world issues, bad things do happen, but no matter what, we should learn something from it. We can't wallow in the pain of the consequences, otherwise it'll define us to a fault, and we can't move on while we let that last. As the Latin saying goes, ad astra per aspera, through hardship to the stars.